to anybody who is here. We are the Minnesota Spirit Hunters, and we're here to just communicate.
Hello. Can you hear us?
Yes. Hello.
We got a little bit of an echo.
I can hear you fine.
All right. I'm going to close that out just to be safe. See if that's better. So we're here with Keith Evans from Paranormal Short Sessions, and if you want to tell us a little bit about what that is, Paranormal Short Sessions, and what you do.
Well, Paranormal Short Sessions by Keith Evans is my YouTube channel, and I just put on Paranormal Short Sessions, and which are usually 30 minutes or less. And I go to different public places like graveyards, and I usually use either my Obelisk 5 or my Melmeter or my thermal imager, and I try to see if I can get any paranormal activity. Usually I do. And I'm just honest with the ghosts of spirits. I let them know that I'm videotaping it for YouTube, and if they don't want to be a part of it, they don't have to. And I let them know that I advertise, little short parts on Instagram and Facebook. And a lot of times ghosts of spirits won't talk. And then as soon as I stop videotaping, if I forget and leave the obelisk on, I'll get a lot of words after the fact. So I don't know what it is about ghosts of spirits, whether they fear the new technology. It might be a older ghost or spirit that may even fear radio and TV, So when you tell a ghost or spirit that they're going to be on a TV program, they might think, well, does that mean I'm going to have to be trapped on that program? Who knows what the ghost of spirits actually interpret that, because they might have been alive when there was no electricity.
Yeah, it could freak them out. Sure.
It might take them a while to be around me and understand that it's just their image and their sound, not really their spirit. Their spirit's still free to go wherever they want to go. So you have to keep that in mind when you're working with ghosts of spirits. And I try to go back repetitively to the same place, because I find the longer the ghosts of spirits get to know your personality, they can make a decision on whether they want to waste their time with you or not. Because, I'm sure they have their own agenda and they're communicating back and forth with each other. And, they might have their day planned, and you're just an interruption if you come there and want to do a paranormal session. So let's keep that in mind when you're out there doing paranormal research. But I've got about 3 places that I've been going to repetitively since I retired in Franklin County, Florida. One is Dr. John Gorey's grave. The other one is the Chestnut Street Cemetery. And the owner sold the Hayes house. So before the owner sold the Hayes house, I probably did at least 2-3 years worth of paranormal research there. And that's what my book is on.
Yep, ghosts are people too. I love that.
Yeah, the Hayes House, Ghost or People too, was mainly about the 2 families that lived at the Hayes House. It was built in 1908, and apparently they had a fire around 1900 in Apalachicola. So whatever was there probably was destroyed during that fire. So the Hayes House was built in 1908, and 2 main families lived there. The Buck family, who built it, and then later on the Hayes family. So that's what the book is mainly about, because I knew a lot about those two families. And I knew more about the Hayes family than I did the Buck family. So the way the book is laid out, it's like 21 mini books. So a lot of people say 430 pages. No way, I'm not reading that book, because they think they have to read from the first page to the last page to understand the meaning. But each chapter is almost like a mini book within itself. The first chapter is all about the history of the Buck family, because I really don't know how the Buck family used each room in the Hayes house. It's a big house. I would say about 14, 15, 16 rooms. So,
Oh, wow.
Well, counting the porches, there was 3 porches, front, back, on the first floor, and a second floor front porch. So I did paranormal research in all those locations, plus the third floor, which was an attic when the Buck family and the Hayes family owned the house, but now it's been made into a third floor apartment. So,
Nice.
so if you're interested in, you have time to read 30 or 40 pages, one chapter is like a mini book. And starting with the second chapter, I followed the same rhythm all the way through. I start out giving you the background history on how say like the dining room, how it was used. I talk about how they always had the family come there for Thanksgiving and Christmas from like 1942 up until 1996 when Kathleen Hayes sold the house. And I talk about the menu that they had. And then after I get done the history, which I think you need to know that to make any sense out of your paranormal data, then I do a transcript of at least 2 1-hour-long paranormal sessions. And during that, I write down a lot of notes so that I wouldn't forget anything, like how I felt, how I actually felt about what was happening, what I saw. Because a lot of times, if you don't write it down, you're not going to catch what happened in the moment. So it's almost like a blow-by-blow transcript of what you would hear in a courtroom. But in this case, I was actually doing a paranormal session. So it's more than just saying I went there and something happened and then it was over. I go into great detail. And I put all my data down so that people can look at it and make their own decision. I think paranormal research is very subjective. I might read something and think that relates to baseball. Someone else might read it and say, no, that relates to football. So it's up to everyone to make their own decisions. I don't try to tell people how to think.
Yeah.
I want them to read the data, the raw data, and then make their own decisions. And then after that, I actually do like an analysis on the conclusions that I draw. So, and each investigation, I did each room thoroughly before I went on to the next room. So, for instance, the chapter 2 is the room which Hayes family called the den. That's the first or the second chapter, because that is the first room that I started doing paranormal sessions in. And I'm pretty sure the last room was the third floor. So I kind of worked my way up. But there was no chronological order. When I was doing the Hayes house, the owners lived in Atlanta. Excuse me. They would come down to visit. My allergies are horrible.
Oh, no.
They used the house for like Airbnb. They also rented out space for artists, local artists, to have a quiet spot to draw or paint. So the house is being used for many different things. And I do all my paranormal research during the day because at that point in time, I was using at least 2 or 3 video cameras that got washed away during Hurricane Michael, during the storm surge. Excuse me. But anyway, I wish I had all that material because it was very interesting.
Yeah, with us, that's one of the big things is, re-going through all the footage and everything after an investigation.
Because that's your backup. Even though I wrote a lot down, had I not written a lot down, I would have just been lost. Because there's so much stuff you don't remember. It seems like when there's paranormal activity, it all hits at once. And you're thinking, what should you respond to? For instance, I remember one time in the kitchen, one video camera stopped working. I had the video camera sitting so I could see the little red light on top. When that little red light stops, it's not working. And the ghosts and spirits that day were draining my batteries. So I didn't want to do a paranormal session and not have the cameras working. And I've had that in other places like the 1880 Victorian, to the point where the only way I could keep my camera from being drained was to plug it in so it was charging right as the ghost spirits were trying to drain it, and then would function properly. So, and a lot of times I use thermal imaging. So I was like trying to watch the thermal images, which I was getting cold spots where it was warm. Heat rises. And these old houses where they're 10 feet tall, the heat should be going up. And when you're getting cold spots up there, it's probably paranormal or it's unexplained. Yeah. So when all that has happened at one time and you're just one person, you're trying hard to make sure that you have video coverage and also at the same time catch all the anomalies that are taking place with the unexplained cold spots. But I hope soon to buy a flare video camera where I can just mount it on a mount and just let it go in one area and not have to hold it, not have to pick it up. The one I have, it's like a $400 piece of equipment, but every minute and a half it times out and you got to press the button to start it up again. So if you're getting good paranormal, it times out. Most cold spots don't last very long. My theory is it's some type of manifestation. Forgive me for how I pronounce that, but the ghosts or spirits drawing energy out of the environment. Yeah. And they might be doing it so they can appear as some type of object, or maybe they're doing it just so you can see the fact that they're a cold spot. A lot of times they don't make their motives clear, and they might just be drawing energy out of the environment so they can choose words from my obelisk 5B.
So that's kind of answering one of my questions right there. What is your favorite piece of equipment that you use?
I like the obelisk 5B. I think you get words, and a lot of times the words are right on the money. And the sad thing about it, the obelisk 5B is like someone evaluating me. For instance, if my knee's hurting, I'll usually get knee hurt or knee feel, like how's your knee feel, almost like the ghost of spirits asking me a question. And a couple of days ago, I think I was doing paranormal short session 7 at the old steam engine number 11 in Port St. Joe, Florida. And that was my day to do laundry. And I wear my hat a lot when I'm outside to keep the sun off of me. And my hat does start to smell after a week. So the words that I got were something to the effect that your hat smells, So the ghost and spirit were right. And I didn't do laundry until this morning. It was yesterday that I did the paranormal short session 7 at the old steam engine in steam engine 11 at the Port St. Joe, Florida. So now my hat's nice and clean.
Oh, that's good.
With the batteries, we've noticed a lot that, when they're trying to do things, that's when your batteries get drained. And one of the things that we actually got for the team, it's called an EM pump, and it actually puts off energy into the air so that they actually stop drawing from your other.
We've had pretty good luck with it.
Well, my worry is that the EM pump might actually be the energy that you're picking up on. It might not be the ghost or spirit utilizing the energy. So I was always skeptic about that, because I think that
We did some
if the
tests.
Atlas 5 can pick up energy, it might be picking up energy from the tectonic plates bumping together in the earth. So sometimes people say, well, you get words that don't make any sense. Well, maybe that's because it might be picking up other senses or other energies and currents that, who knows, there might be a conduit running underneath the floor that I'm not aware of, and it might pick up, that conduit might have a frequency that would be the same as a ghost choosing the word walk, so I might think, well, the ghost knows I'm walking, and it might just be a coincidence. So I worry about using those type of electromagnetic pumps, because they're putting it in the air, and that might actually choose some of the words from the Atlas 5.
So we tested this theory using the EM pump to see if it made our equipment react differently. And so to start with that, we did the EMF detector. And so we measured how far away you have to be so that it doesn't mess with our equipment. And so we kind of walk around in that, like past that area, so we're not next to people doing sessions. But
how far away do you have to be?
So it's about 5 feet or so, just to be safe. It's probably less. But we go at least 5 feet or farther away, depending on if we're in a building or if we're outside. It's our cemeteries episode, so a lot of times we're outside, so we go even farther away just to be safe.
Well, that might be a good energy. That way the ghosts of spirits can draw energy from that, and it won't affect your equipment. So that's a good idea.
Yeah. So if we start going through batteries and we can see that they're draining them, like a freshly charged camera battery goes dead in 5 minutes, you know what I mean?
Right.
Then we'll break out the EM pump and let them know what we're doing, and that they can use it.
Well, we've even gotten spirits on the spirit box and everything coming through, asking us to use it.
Yep.
Wow, that's cool. But that's good, because when you're out in the graveyard, there's no place to plug in. You can't use the outlet or anything.
Another big one is battery packs. We go through a lot of those.
We invested in a bunch of battery packs so we can just hook the cord right to the battery pack to the camera battery.
Well, I got a battery pack as part of a gift from, I don't know, when I got the Envoy. I might have paid for it, but it was part of the package deal. And I'm not sure how to really use it. And if you do use it, how do you recharge it? Or is it just a one-time thing? Once it loses its charge,
usually that you plug it into, like how cell phones have the block that plugs into the wall and you can plug a cord into it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a cord that goes from the battery pack to the camera that you're charging. You kind of reverse it and you plug it into the wall.
Yeah, there's a spot for you to plug in the charger from the wall, and there's a spot to put a cord in to go from the battery pack to a camera or whatever it is that you're trying to put power to.
It's just cords.
I might have to buy a cord, because I don't think it came with mine, but I have to relook. But I tried the Envoy. I guess I got it a couple months ago, but I didn't seem to have very much luck with ghosts of spirits choosing letters. I don't know if most ghosts of spirits only have so much energy, so they might run out of energy before they can choose too many letters. And I found that the Envoy worked better for me on yes and no questions. I found that was very accurate. But since time is short and I want my paranormal videos to kind of shine and be as best as they can be, I don't really have that much time to really fool with the Envoy to see how best I can use it. I would like to just use it while I'm not taping and at least give the Ghost of Spirits a chance to learn it. I know the Obelisk 5 has been out there probably at least 10 years now, so most Ghost of Spirits probably know another Ghost of Spirit that's used it, and they probably heard what to do, what not to do, and probably Ghost of Spirits say, well, I want to save as much energy so I can get a whole sentence out of words,
Yeah.
So the Envoy, it's going to take them a while for Ghost of Spirits to really learn how to use it, because it's only been out maybe 3 or 4 months at the max.
Yeah.
Do you all have an Envoy?
Sorry?
Do you have the Envoy by Ghost Stop?
No.
Do you have a Obelisk 5?
Nope.
No.
We basically stick with SB7, or we'll do the Pendulum.
And then there's an app.
We've tried a couple different apps, but we try to stick with SB7.
I know some people that have had really good luck with the apps. Since I'm out usually in public places, I try to take as little equipment as possible. So I've mainly been using my cell phone. And by using my cell phone, I can load it directly to YouTube. I'm not really sure how I would load if I use a video camera. I'm not sure how I would load that to YouTube. So
video camera, you have the SD cards, right?
Yes.
Okay, so then you put the SD cards into your computer and you upload the video from that, and then you can post them with the computer. You can post them onto YouTube.
Okay. I'll have to give that a try. Right now, after Hurricane Michael, I only purchased one video camera, and the battery went dead because I was not using it. I was using my cell phone instead. And now I have to, every place I went to replace the video camera, it's a Canon camera. Nobody had a replacement battery, so everyone recommends buying it on Amazon.
If you can match up the numbers off the battery and stuff, it shouldn't be too hard to find on there.
Yeah. So I got a couple extra questions too. I'm wondering, have you ever had a moment where you've went into an investigation and it just didn't go your way, and the fact of you weren't comfortable?
Yes. One time that I can think of was at the Hayes house. I was doing a room. The owners had put the place up for sale. That's what motivated me to try to knock out all of my paranormal sessions, even though I did not have the history on most of the rooms. And the room I was working in, it turned out later on, it was actually Pat and Kathleen's bedroom. So in that room, I was using my thermal imager, and I got the room's northeast corner. There was a dark blue or black line, almost like a pipe, in the corner of the room. So I turned around real quick to check the southwest corner of the room to see what that looked like, do kind of like a comparison. And when I did that, I saw it went from 2 to 3 undulating, almost like silhouettes, like the head with a little bit of a shoulder. And it was just like a dark blue color, but it was the head and the shoulders. And later on, I figured that in the northeast corner, that was probably Pat Hayes, because he was tall and skinny. Even though he was 6'3", he had a 28-inch waist. So he was just very tall and skinny. And I think that's the way his thermal image came through to me. And when I turned around, I think the two silhouettes that were dark blue to blackish, I think the two that were mainly there were Kathleen Hayes, who lived at the Hayes house from 1942 until it was sold in 1996. And I think the other one was Sunshine Gibson, who lived at the Hayes house until 1942, until she passed away in 1956. And then the third undulating in and out dark blue to black silhouette, I feel that was Annie, which was Pat's mother. And she used to come down every weekend and visit them at the Hayes house. So I really felt that it made me feel like they were ganging up on me, which I think I was wrong to think that. And I preach to people that they shouldn't be always think everything's negative about the paranormal. And I think I was wrong. I know I was wrong now, but at the time I thought, well, if these ghosts and spirits don't want me here, do I have a right to really go in to a lot of detail and bother them by writing a book? Because I knew I was going to spend at least 2 1-hour sessions in every room and porch of the house. So believe it or not, as soon as that day was over, I forgot all about that situation. And the only time I remembered it was when I looked at my notes. And I had like at least a thick tablet, spiral tablet that I bought full of notes. I tried to do like a transcript of everything that I said, everything that was said as far as data by the Obelisk 5, if and when I got a cold spot, where it was. And I actually did a lot of shorthand and then went back and spent at least an hour to an hour and a half filling in everything. So when I wrote the book, I would have the detail. And I forgot I did all the details of writing it in, which took an hour and a half after the paranormal session. I would sit there right at the Hayes house and document everything that I could remember from the shorthand that I was writing during the paranormal session, and forgot all about it until I was actually writing the book and actually doing the typing. And I thought, isn't that something? It's almost like they said, well, maybe he's overwhelmed by this, so let's help him forget about it so he continues to write the book. So anyway, that all ended out well. So that's just take a lesson from me that even though you might think, wow, what's going on here? Or is this negative? Don't always think that it's negative, because in most cases it's never negative with me. I get some of the best ghosts and spirits. I try to go to places that were well loved. Was that a question for me? That's just
yeah, just a statement.
Well, if anyone has a question, I don't mind answering questions from the audience. I think if an audience can participate, it makes them more motivated to watch.
For sure. I have a question too. Have you ever had a blooper moment? Have you ever had something that was, that stands out as the funniest moment you've had while investigating?
I don't know if anything ever happened that was comical. Nothing I can think of.
Okay.
I did have a situation that happened in St. Augustine at the 1880 Victorian. And I was sitting on the couch and I had plugged my
Sorry. Go ahead.
my camcorder in on the table, which was right in front of me. And the cord reached across to the nearest plug, which actually went in front of a door. But I locked the door so no one would come in by accident. And I turned around and sat down, and I no more than sat down. Before I could look up, I heard like something go like that. And I looked, because the cord was like right off there in front of me, and it was like bouncing up and down, like a ghost of spirit had flipped it, as if to say, you shouldn't be putting this in front of the door. So, and of course, the camera was on facing me. So, and I have never had the time to go back and look at all the video footage. from the 1880. I have never had time, and just about every paranormal session I did was video recorded, except for short sessions that I did with just my camera.
Okay.
So I'm sure you could hear it. If I could hear it, and my hearing's not that good from the Army, I'm sure that the camera picked up that sound of that, you know, I guess you could say electrical cord bouncing up and down. And it didn't knock my camera off, but it pulled my camera towards the edge of the table. It was kind of not sitting like facing me. So I'm sure as soon as it happened, the camera went from facing me to like facing off to the side.
Wow. Yeah, that would be weird. That's a good experience, like a good story to tell. We love when random little things like that happen.
Yep.
Yeah.
Have you ever done any investigations with other people or teams? Or are you kind of been solo?
I've always did solo because in the 60s, 70s, and 80s and 90s, I lived in a conservative neighborhood where they would just declare you a nut if you were doing paranormal research. And they were very, very stringent about everyone better follow what we do and not
I hate
stray
that.
from it. So I wasn't going to tell anyone. And then, of course, I guess it was sometime in the 2000s that I started seeing all these ghost hunter programs and, you know, thinking, oh, cool, I'll check it out. Even though most of the programs didn't really have my style. I think the closest to my style would be the program that started out with the two plumbers. I guess it's called Ghost Hunters.
Taps,
Ghost Hunters, yeah.
And, you know, they usually go to just normal places like homes and all like that. And most of the places I've got permission to do are either homes or historical motels where, you know, you get your run-of-the-mill different problems, but nothing that great. So.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure. So we are going to take a quick intermission. There's two promotional videos we're going to play. And then when we get back, I've got a couple more questions for you. And then if you want to talk about your YouTube channel, get people to get the word out to subscribe, we can do that.
Okay, sounds good.
All right. We'll be back in just a few minutes.
All right, thanks.
And we're back. All right. So I have a couple more questions for you. You can go ahead and then we'll talk about your YouTube channel and what you're planning on doing with growth on that. So
All right.
what is something that you would never do while investigating? What advice could you give other investigators that you should never do?
I don't think it's good to provoke. I've had ghosts tick me off and I just told them how I felt, but I don't, if I can't get activity, then I'll try another day or I'll try something else. But I don't think it's a good idea to provoke. I don't think you're going to get any information that's positive or anything that's worth it. You know, I feel a lot of times it's just showing up at the place. If you don't get any information, delete your information, or have a story to tell about. A lot of times at the cemetery where I go to, Chestnut Street Cemetery, I worry about telling stories about local relatives because someone might be offended. Some stories you hear. So people say, well, why don't you tell a story? Well, if I offend someone, then, you know, it's one of those things where unless it's a well-known story that's been told about their relative, so I try to avoid that, but
You never
I
know.
really wanted to get across the architecture and the diversity and try to get people interested in the graveyard so that it can be preserved for future generations. I'm not actively involved with the Historical Society. I just don't have time. As a paranormal investigator and a YouTuber, I guess you could say that since I have a YouTube channel, I just don't have the time, even though I'm retired. And I want to be prepared. If someone calls me and says, hey, Keith, I'd love for you to do paranormal research at my house. The money's saved up. I'm ready to go, you know?
Yeah.
And that's the way I want to be. And so that's one reason why I don't tell stories. Now, if I find a well-documented story that no family can really gripe about because it's been out there, I would like to try to do that in the future. Maybe stay at one gravestone and concentrate on one person. Well, with Dr. John Gorey, I bought a book on Dr. John Gorey, and the book was written by one of his relatives. And to me, the book is, you might get one or two facts, one or two small facts out of each chapter. So a lot of the writing is just playing with words. Where with me, when I write a book, I want the meat and potatoes there. I want a fact here, my opinion here. You know, I don't want to just play around with words to talk about, you know, how hot the cemetery is and that all the sandburrs are stuck to my hairy legs and my socks and my shoes. You know, I could talk forever about the little lizard that runs to meet me like a dog. That little gecko is so cool at the Chestnut Street Cemetery. But I'd rather just let it be about the paranormal. Let people, you know, judge it for the paranormal, not about my ability to write about how hot it is or, you know, what the grass is like when you're walking through it and all the sandburrs stick to your socks and hairy legs. But sometimes when you buy a book, you get a lot of filler like that, which some people love because it's the artistic way that someone twists and turns words. But with me, I'm a paranormal researcher first and foremost, and I just want to write about my experiences as paranormal researcher and things like that. So I hope to maybe in the future do another book. I thought about, you know, writing a book just about one subject matter. But if I can't find enough new material, or at least material if someone else has documented it that I don't know about, if I can't find something fresh and new, then I'd rather not have a second book.
Have you thought about cryptids?
Yeah, I have. And at the same time, it's still very hard to come up with something new. When it's cryptids, you can spend a lot of time and still just not have much to go on. So, and I would hate to just talk about all the times I went out and found nothing.
Yeah, I understand that point. So you are all about historical preservation, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Have you heard of the global ghost hunt?
I couldn't hear you.
Have you heard of the global ghost hunt?
I have. I'm not sure what that is.
Oh, if you get a chance to visit their website, it'll describe what it's all about. But yeah, it's a great way to really promote historical preservation if you get a good location to participate at. It's a 10-day event.
Wow.
But I can send you the link later if you want to look at it.
Yeah, that'll be good. Now with me, I don't really have any control over any of the locations that I am at, presently doing paranormal research at. So I can only tell people about it and hope that they'll be interested in. I think if more paranormal researchers visited the Chestnut Street Cemetery and went there with respect, go there during the day. You can't see nothing at night. In the dark, our minds are going to fill in the blanks. So I think I saw something over there. Yeah, you can't see anything, so you think you saw something. I would rather be in the day and see everything bright. I know it makes people feel more in the mood and more frightened if it's nighttime, but you can see so much better during the day, and I like to sleep at night.
Yeah, for sure. I know that some places do during the day investigations. It'd be worth looking into if you were ever interested. So last question I have for you, written down anyways, but we've got a couple just that pops up in our head. What advice would you give to a future investigator about getting started or just something that you've learned?
Well, I find that each investigator has their own personality and their own style. Do what works for you. At the end of the day, all I really have to do is please myself. And I try a paranormal research style that I feel will be accommodating to the ghosts, so that if they have something they want to say or something they want to tell a family member or something they want to tell me about their life that they feel comfortable with, then, I let them know that where I'm putting it out on YouTube, then, I want to be there to listen. And at times I feel almost like a social worker or a psychologist, because I'm just there to listen. And very rarely do I have a customer who calls me and says, "Oh my God, I have a problem. Can you help?" Because so many people in the area of Florida where I live, they're so very conservative that a lot of them don't even think ghosts exist. And I mean, I know because of things that have happened. So it's one of those things where most of the people that call me for help are out of state. And usually I can tell them over the phone different ways they usually have some type of, noisy ghost, poltergeist type activity where stuff is being moved or making sounds. And usually I tell them, go talk to the ghost, ask the ghost to be quiet during these periods of time because that's when you sleep. And, they tell me that things get moved around unexplained wise. And I say, well, maybe the ghost wants to have their own stuff. So give them something. If a Christmas bulb gets moved, have a spot in the basement or a closet where you can tell the ghost, this is your room, This is your spot. This is your location. If you want this Christmas bulb, we're going to put it here for you to enjoy all year long, except Christmas, we want it back to put it on the Christmas tree. And a lot of times, if you just show a little bit of caring, show that you know the ghost is there, you understand that they have wants and needs, and if there's certain things they want, let them have it. I've had people say, my keys get moved around. Well, get some old keys that are no longer being used, put it on a ring and give it to the ghost. Maybe to make them feel good that they have their own keys, kind of like a little bit of normalcy, like when you were alive. And I think when we show that we care about the ghosts of spirits, then they're going to care about us and our family and not make noise at night while we're trying to sleep. And everyone that I've communicated with that was having problems like that, I never hear from them again. So it must work. I guess if it doesn't work, maybe that could be the reason why I don't hear from them. But anyway, I try, but it's almost impossible for me to travel long distances to try to help, most people. And most people are working, so it would be a tough schedule unless they trust you in their house. And a lot of times the ghosts of spirits are so normal and down to earth that if you just talk to them and reason with them, usually the negative activity will stop. It's like being around, I hate to compare a ghost or spirit to a dog, but if the dog's owner gets upset, the dog gets upset. They feel that emotion.
No, that's a good analogy for sure.
And ghosts and spirits are the same way. It's like if you get upset and all angry and wanting to fight, then the ghost of spirit's probably going to get upset. Because I don't know if ghosts of spirits realize that when they're in the earthly realm, I think they can go to and from heaven as they wish. So they want to be at a house. They want to spend time there. I don't know if they really realize or accept. They might be in denial about being dead. And they might think, this house is just as much mine as it is yours. So I think by getting angry, you just make things worse.
Yeah, we've talked about one thing that I've talked about with our team in general, but also just personally before we even joined our team, is making sure you go into an investigation with a good mindset, like clear your mind, be open before you head in there. Because I think that if you don't let go of any negative before you go in, it can affect your investigation. I think you're more easily, I guess they're drawn to you because they can see or feel your emotional stress or whatever's going on.
Well, I really feel that ghosts of spirits, they want you to care about them and like them and accept them. And if you go into anything being frightened, like how would I feel if I was walking down the street and everyone screamed and said, there's that paranormal investigator, run to the other side of the road, quick. That would make me feel bad. So maybe the ghosts of spirits are responding negatively because you make them feel bad when you come in frightened or angry or accusing them of being evil or demonic. I mean, to me, ghosts of spirits, they're just people too. They don't have a biological body, but I think they have the same mindset that we have. They have the same memories, the same feelings. I think their feelings can be hurt and they can be angered and they can be happy. If you're nice to them and talk to them, they're probably tickled to death to have someone to come to the graveyard that's not trying to be frightened by their existence.
For sure, that's a good way to look at it. So just before we end the show in a little bit, is there anything you'd like to talk about your YouTube channel or what's going to happen in the future? Do you have any future plans to change anything up or anything you're excited about coming up?
Well, I would just like to say my book, The Hayes House Ghosts Are People Too, by Keith Evans, it's available online just about any place. Most people get the best deal on Amazon. It's not in any book and mortar store because I just can't afford to pay the yearly annual distribution fees. So, but my YouTube channel is free. Most of my paranormal sessions are at least 30 minutes long or shorter. So most people say, I understand they don't have 30 minutes to watch. It's very hard for me to have an hour out of each day to watch another person's paranormal video or to even sometimes watch a podcast. So I do feel that the way my YouTube channel is set up, I might be wrong, but if you start watching my YouTube video, and for instance, you got to stop and make supper right now, then when you stop, you should be able to pick right back up where you left off. So some people think that they have to watch it all the way through or they'll start back at the beginning. I don't think it's like that, but leave me a comment, somebody, if you hear me and I'm wrong about that. So that would be my suggestion. You don't have to watch it all the way through. Just pick up where you left off when you get more time. And that's about all I can ask for people, because I know I probably get 200 requests a day to please watch my paranormal and let me know what happens. And sometimes it's people at night and all you're looking at is blackness. And every once in a while you might see somebody move around or trees or a tombstone if it's moonlight. And it's kind of hard, especially if it's late at night. If I'm looking at blackness, I'm going to be nodding off, But, if you're doing a paranormal session at night, please constantly say something, because if there's no scenery to look at, it keeps the person interested in your video. And I can't, a lot of times it's hard for me to text message someone that, because I know they're trying their best. And I don't want to say something that stops them or makes them think that I'm criticizing them. But if you do a nighttime investigation, always keep talking. And I know it's hard, because if you're talking and a ghost or spirit makes a sound, you're going to be walking all over that. So, but anyway, if you're making a video, just remember that the person is watching it. If you're not talking and all they're seeing is midnight, it's just hard for people to continue to watch.
Yeah.
But my YouTube channel is Paranormal Short Sessions by Keith Evans. And if anything, most people have a hard time searching for it. And then some people say it comes right up. So I don't know.
When I looked it up, I found it right away as long as I typed in the whole thing.
Yeah, that's good. And it's, like I say, it's a long title, but I thought it would be catchy. Paranormal Short Sessions by Keith Evans. So.
Absolutely. Well, if anybody that's watching now or watching later wants to check out your YouTube channel, it should be linked in the event or the live description. But thank you for coming on tonight and letting us know all about your book and about your paranormal short sessions. It's hard to say when you say it fast. But yeah, so I think you're on a couple more shows in the future. I saw you booked on, so we'll have to check those out. And then we are going to probably call it a night. Is there any questions that you have for us?
No, nothing I can think of. I certainly do appreciate you having me on.
For sure. We appreciate you coming on.
I just wondered, are there any questions from the audience? I mean, I always find that when I end a podcast, there's always that last person that comes up with a question, and by the time they get it typed in, the podcast is over, and I get to see it backstage, and it's too late to answer it.
So right now, there's no questions that I can see.
All right. Just want to make sure.
No, for sure. I understand. If one pops up in the next, yeah. So they can always comment after the show's over, and then you can address those. You could comment back to them or talk to them as well if you want.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, so I'm looking through. I don't see any here. Nope. All right. Well, thank you again for coming on, and we look forward to seeing you on some of the other shows.
Okay. Sounds great. Thanks again for having me.
Perfect. Have a good night.
You too.
To this crew here, we like to keep it positive, you know how we do. Big up to this crew. From day one till it's done, do or die, me and you. Big up to this crew. Yeah, we like to keep it positive, you know how we do. Big up to this crew. Got props non-stop and mad love for you.
Rising up like the moon, elevating the mood, uplifting attitudes, cause that's what we choose to do. And I don't know about you, but there's enough negativity going around with plenty room to improve. Yeah, sometimes we collide with stress and negativity. We always let it slide. It's an elevated vibe, so fly. We touch the sky every time we ride.
Big up to this crew here. We like to keep it positive, you know how we do. Big up to this crew. From day one till it's done, do or die, me and you. Big up to this crew. Yeah, we like to keep it positive, you know how we do. Big up to this crew. Got props non-stop and mad love for you.
Now roll back time, tell me what you find. You're gonna see the same sucker MCs on the sidelines. In the fourth quarter when it's do or die time, that's when this crew is inclined to go prime time. From day one straight till it's done, but you all know full well that we only just begun.
Yeah.
We stick together, one for all for one. When it gets heavy, no, we don't cut and run. Crazy thinking about the places that we've been.